The workshop sat at the edge of Sector 7, where the gleaming towers of the Galactic Trade Station gave way to the cramped living quarters of working-class families. Inside, Jonas Reed hunched over a workbench cluttered with circuit boards, tiny gears, and the scattered remains of what had once been a floating companion doll. His calloused hands moved with surprising gentleness as he soldered a new power cell into place. The door chimed. Jonas didn't look up. "Come in. It's open." A small figure shuffled inside, her forearms clutching something against her chest. Lyra was a Vexian child, her blue skin marked with the luminescent patterns that would brighten as she grew older. Right now those patterns were dim, flickering with distress. "Mr. Jonas?" Her voice was barely a whisper. He turned, his weathered face breaking into a warm smile. "Hey there, Lyra. What brings you by today?" She held out a mechanical bird, its wings bent at odd angles, one of its crystal eyes missing. Pipkin fell. "Mama says we can't afford to fix him. She says I need to throw him away and grow up." Tears welled in her large amber eyes. Jonas set down his soldering iron and reached for the broken toy. "Let me take a look." The Galactic Council representatives had warned him when he first opened his shop. Humans were new to the station, barely trusted. They were seen as primitive. Their technology crude compared to the elegant quantum matrices and bio-integrated systems of the older species. Jonas had listened politely, then hung his sign anyway. "Repairs. All welcome. Pay what you can." What he hadn't advertised was the back room, where broken toys piled up from families who couldn't pay anything at all. Every evening after the official work was done, Jonas would stay late, breathing life back into beloved companions, fixing cherished games, restoring tiny robots to working order. "This is an easy fix," Jonas said, examining the bird. "See here? The wing joint just popped out. And I've got a drawer full of replacement eyes from other projects. Pipkin will be flying by tomorrow." Lyra's patterns brightened instantly. "Really? But Mama said—" "Your Mama's doing her best in a tough spot," Jonas interrupted gently. "But that's what neighbors are for, right? To help each other out." He ruffled the crest of sensory tendrils on her head. "Come back tomorrow after school." "He'll be ready." She threw all four arms around him in a fierce hug. "Thank you, Dad." Jonas froze. The word hung in the air between them. Lyra pulled back, her patterns flickering with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jonas, I didn't mean—" "It's okay," he said softly, though something in his chest tightened. "It's okay." After she left, Jonas stood alone in his workshop, staring at the mechanical bird in his hands. He'd had a daughter once, back on Earth before the colony ship. Before the accident that had taken his wife and child, and left him floating through space, looking for a reason to keep going. He got back to work. Word spread through the stations, lower levels like electricity through a circuit. The human who fixed toys for free, the human who never turned anyone away, the human who remembered every child's name and asked about their day. They started coming in groups. Kethran children with their segmented carapaces, Delari younglings who communicated in color patterns, even young Vryn, whose species had historically viewed humans as little more than useful laborers. Jonas learned their languages, their customs, their fears and dreams. He kept a jar of candy from a dozen worlds. He displayed their drawings on his walls. When 7-year-old Trin brought in a broken homework terminal and confessed he'd smashed it in frustration, Jonas didn't lecture. He taught Trin breathing exercises he'd learned in his own childhood, then showed him how terminals worked so it wouldn't seem so scary next time. When Kessa's robotic pet stopped moving, Jonas sat with her while she cried, then walked her through the repair process step by step. "Sometimes," he told her, "the most important thing we can do is be there when things break, and then help put them back together." The adults noticed. At first they were suspicious. What did this human want? What was his angle? But as weeks became months and no bills came due, and their children returned home with functioning toys and brighter spirits, suspicion turned to gratitude. It was Lyra's mother who first left a still warm container of jury stew outside his shop with a note. "Thank you for fixing more than toys." The gifts multiplied. Food, spare parts, offers of friendship. Jonas accepted them all with the same gracious humility he brought to every repair. He never asked for anything, but the community provided anyway. Then came the day Lyra returned, not with a broken toy, but with a school project. She'd written an essay titled "My Hero." Jonas read it in his shop, his vision blurring. She'd written about him, about how he'd taught her that broken things weren't garbage, that everything deserved a chance to be fixed, that kindness didn't require wealth or status or even the same species, and she'd ended it with a simple line. Jonas Reed isn't just the neighborhood mechanic. He's the dad who chose us all. When Jonas looked up, Lyra was standing in the doorway, patterns blazing with nervous hope. I asked Mama if it was okay to call you that, she said. She said if you said yes, it was okay with her. Jonas opened his arms and Lyra ran into them. Yes, he said, his voice rough. Yes, that's okay with me. The news spread. Within days, dozens of children were greeting him the same way. Hi, Dad. Dad, look what I made in school. Dad, can you fix this? The Galactic Council representatives came by again, confused by the reports. They found Jonas surrounded by a rainbow of species, all chattering excitedly as he guided their hands through repairs, taught them to solder, helped them understand how things worked. What are you doing? The lead representative asked. Jonas looked up, a Catherine child on his shoulders, 2 Dulari younglings at his feet, Lyra helping him sort components on the bench. I'm fixing things, he said simply, all kinds of things. The representative looked at the children, at their obvious adoration, at the makeshift family that had formed in this cluttered workshop. Humans, she muttered, but there was wonder in her voice now, not disdain. You're all completely illogical, Jonas grinned. Yeah, we really are. That evening, after the last child had gone home, Jonas stood in his workshop and looked at the drawings covering every wall. At the photos they'd insisted on taking together. At the growing pile of thank you notes written in a dozen languages. He'd lost a family once. But here, in the margins of a space station billions of miles from Earth, he'd found another. Not because they shared his blood, but because they shared something more important. The understanding that love wasn't limited by biology. It was simply a choice to care. To fix what was broken. To show up day after day with open hands and an open heart. And for Jonas Reed, that was more than enough.